Stop cramming. Right now, somewhere, a student is highlighting an entire textbook in neon yellow, reading the same paragraph for the fourth time, convinced that if they just stay up a little later, push a little harder, the information will finally stick. And here's the brutal part. By the time they sit down for the test, most of what they're studying tonight will already be gone. Not because they're lazy, not because they're stupid, but because they're using their brain in the exact opposite way it was built to learn. For decades, we've been sold a lie about learning. The lie is that learning is about input, that if you just expose yourself to information long enough, hard enough, it'll soak in like water into a sponge. So we reread, we highlight, we marathon study sessions until 3 a.m. and it feels productive. That's the trap. It feels like learning because the material gets easier to recognize, but recognition is not memory. Being able to nod along to a sentence you've read 5 times is not the same as being able to pull that idea out of your own head when it's gone. Here's what the science actually says, and it's going to sound backwards. The moment learning feels hard, the moment you're straining to retrieve something and almost can't, that struggle is the learning. Cognitive scientists call them desirable difficulties. When you force your brain to dig for an answer instead of just rereading it, you're not testing what you know. You're physically strengthening the neural pathway to that memory. The effort is the mechanism. Easy studying builds nothing. Hard studying builds everything. And cramming is the easiest, most comfortable, most useless thing you can do. Let me tell you about a study that should have rewritten every classroom in the world. Researchers took students and split them into 2 groups learning the same material. One group studied it 4 times in a row. The other group studied it once, then was tested on it 3 times, forced to recall it from memory. When they checked back a week later, the group that just kept rereading remembered almost nothing. The group that had to struggle to recall it remembered dramatically more. Same time, same material. The only difference was whether the brain had to work to pull the information back out. They called it the testing effect, and it flips everything you were taught about studying on its head. Testing isn't how you measure learning. Testing is how you create it. Now here's where cramming really falls apart. There's a second weapon, and it sounds almost too simple to matter: time, spacing. If you study something today and then again in 2 days and then again in a week, you will crush the person who studied the exact same amount in one frantic night, and it isn't close. Why? Because forgetting is part of the design. Every time you start to forget something and then reach back and recover it, that memory comes back stronger and lasts longer. The forgetting isn't the enemy. The forgetting is the workout. Cramming robs you of every single one of those reps. You pack it all into one session where there's no time to forget, no time to recover, no time to build anything durable. You're lifting the weight once and wondering why you're not getting stronger. And we haven't even talked about what you're doing to the most important part of all this: sleep. When you cram all night, you're not just tired. You are dismantling the exact machinery that turns today's studying into tomorrow's knowledge. While you sleep, specifically during deep sleep, your brain replays what you learned that day and physically transfers it from short-term holding into long-term storage. No sleep, no transfer. You can study perfectly and then erase the whole thing by skipping the night your brain needed to file it away. The all-nighter isn't just unhelpful. It's self-sabotage with extra steps. So what do the people who actually retain things do differently? They don't study more. They study in a way that feels worse. They close the book and try to recall before they're ready. They quiz themselves and tolerate the discomfort of blanking out because they know that blank is where the growth happens. They spread their sessions across days instead of cramming them into hours. They mix topics together instead of drilling one thing in a block, because jumbling it up forces the brain to keep choosing the right tool, another desirable difficulty. And they protect their sleep like it's part of the study plan, because it is. It's not a break from learning. It's the final, irreplaceable step of learning. The hardest thing to accept is that the strategy that feels the most productive is the one that works the least, and the strategy that feels frustrating, slow, and a little bit like failing is the one that actually rewires your brain. We've been chasing the comfortable feeling of fluency when we should have been chasing the productive feeling of struggle. Easy doesn't last. Hard does. So before your next big test, your next presentation, the next thing you actually need to remember, ask yourself this. Are you studying in the way that feels good or in the way that actually changes your brain? And if those two things are opposites, which one have you been choosing your whole life?